How do you rebuild belief after a decade of failure? For over 10 years, PSG were Europe's eternal promise. Rich, glamorous, unstoppable on paper, but cursed when it mattered most. Every season ended the same way. Hope, heartbreak, humiliation. They had the money, they had the superstars. But when the lights shined brightest, they always fell apart. Until last season, when everything changed. Because one man walked into PSG and turned chaos into control, egos into unity, superstars into soldiers. Under Luis Enrique, PSG didn't just rise from the ashes, they were reborn. It all began with a dream, not of football, but of power. In 2011, a new era dawned over Paris. Qatar Sports Investments bought PSG with one promise, to make Paris the capital of world football. And they did just that. Over the years, to prove their hunger for total domination, PSG poured money into expensive signings, creating their own version of the Galacticos. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the face of arrogance and ambition. Edinson Cavani, the relentless worker. Neymar, the world's most expensive player. Kylian Mbappe, the prodigy, the future of France. And finally, Lionel Messi, the greatest of them all. For a moment, it felt inevitable, a team of icons, unstoppable, untouchable, invincible. They dominated France like no team ever had before. Since the Qatari takeover, PSG have won 9 Ligue 1 titles in just 12 seasons, including 4 consecutive championships from 2012 to 2016, and another run of 3 straight titles from 2021 to 2023. With a solid foundation to build upon, the Champions League wasn't a dream, it was destiny. But behind the glamour, something was missing. PSG had everything money could buy, except what money couldn't, a touch of European glory. They weren't building a football club, they were assembling a brand. Every season brought a new superstar, a new commercial, a new promise. But when the lights of Europe's biggest nights came on, the cracks began to show. A collection of mercenaries playing football for themselves, not for the badge that Parisians proudly wear for over 50 years. The empire of stars was dazzling, but fragile. A castle built on ego and on sand. And soon, Europe would expose it all. At first, the dream seemed within reach. Every season began with the same promise: this will be the year. But instead of glory, came heartbreak. 2 words became PSG's curse: La Remontada. A 4-0 lead from the first leg, a statement win against Barcelona. But in the second leg, the impossible happened. 6 goals conceded. 6! It wasn't just a defeat, it was humiliation. La Remontada, they called it. The PSG, it was the beginning of a curse. And if that wasn't enough, 2019 brought another collapse. A 2-0 advantage from Old Trafford. Job done, or so they thought. But under the Paris lights, Manchester United completed the impossible. A last-minute penalty, another heartbreak, different opponent, same story. Then came 2020, the Champions League final in Lisbon, PSG's first ever, their moment of destiny. But destiny was cruel. A single goal from Kingsley Coman, a player they once let go, shattered the dream. So close, yet still empty-handed. Those were just 3 examples in a long, painful pattern, because for PSG, crashing out of Europe became less of a shock and more of an expectation. Every spring, the script felt familiar. Early hope, late heartbreak. A new manager, a new plan. The same ending. For a decade, PSG were trapped in a cycle of their own creation. They built the most expensive team in the world, but couldn't buy the mentality. Feared in France, but laughed at in Europe. And with every heartbreak, belief slowly died. The empire was crumbling, and the world could see it. But from the ruins, a reset was coming. By the summer of 2023, PSG had reached their breaking point. A decade of dominance, and still, Europe refused to kneel. The stars were fading, the project had lost its soul. Even Lionel Messi, the greatest man to ever grace the turf, couldn't reverse the European curse of the Parc des Princes. Neymar, once the poster boy of the Qatari dream, left behind a legacy of brilliance shadowed by injury and frustration. And Mbappé, the local hero turned global icon, entered his final season surrounded by uncertainty, carrying the burden of a project that had promised everything and delivered nothing. The empire that once sought eternal glory now stood on unstable ground. But in the middle of the chaos, one man arrived, Luis Enrique, a man forged by philosophy, discipline, and obsession for detail. He didn't come to revolutionize PSG through money. He came to remind it how to breathe football again. He demanded structure, he demanded humility, and most importantly, he demanded courage. For the first time in years, PSG stopped chasing headlines and started chasing standards. The star-studded, mercenary-loaded PSG was dead. In its place, a new generation, players who weren't chasing names, but chasing titles. After Kylian Mbappé was shown the door, two young Frenchmen emerged as the symbols of rebirth, Désiré Doué and Warren Zaïre-Emery, young, fearless, and relentless. Not trying to fill Mbappé's shoes, but to carve their own path, to shine as the new icons of the City of Light. Behind them stood a foundation of warriors, Donnarumma, the Italian wall, whose presence alone strikes fear into forwards. But every great football project is built from its center, and at the heart of Paris stood one man, Vitinha. Once a Premier League misfit, now the heartbeat of PSG, the orchestrator, the destroyer, the man who carries the piano and plays it too. And finally, Ousmane Dembélé, a man reborn, humble off the pitch, ruthless on it, a panther hunting with purpose. His story, one of redemption, resilience, and a second chance that inspired an entire generation of French dreamers. The football wasn't flawless, but the system was. Each player, a cog in a vast, finely tuned machine. Every run, every pass, every press, turning in perfect harmony, driving forward the giant called PSG. The sleeping giant had finally awakened, guided by a man with purpose, pain, and unrelenting determination to make it work, no matter what it took. For years, PSG's story in Europe always felt the same. Loud beginnings, quiet endings. But this time, something was different. This wasn't the PSG of old, chasing chaos, crumbling under pressure. This was a new generation, young, untested, but mature beyond their years. Even when the games grew ugly, they didn't panic, they adapted. When the goals didn't flow, they dug in. When brilliance wasn't enough, they fought. It wasn't dominance that defined them anymore, it was resilience, a team that knew how to win, even when it meant scraping one. Because sometimes, maturity isn't about perfection, it's about survival. Every player fought like it was personal, because it was. Quarterfinals, semi-finals. Each round brought bigger challenges, louder critics, sharper tests, but PSG stood firm. No collapse, no panic, just football. Patient, relentless, intelligent. This time, PSG proved they belonged on Europe's biggest stage. No longer the naive, pompous Parisians mocked for arrogance. They had become something Europe hadn't seen before. A PSG that earned its place among the elite. Luis Enrique's vision was complete, not because of tactics or trophies, but because he did what no one before him could. He humbled the giants and uplifted the forgotten. He turned egos into leaders and outcasts into believers. Each match, each moment, stripped away another layer of doubt. The same club that once drowned in ego now thrived in unity. And as the final whistle blew in the semi-final, you could feel it through the stands. PSG weren't the punchline anymore, they were the story. It all led to this, the Allianz Arena, a cathedral of football, glowing red in the Munich night, where dreams are either born or buried. For years, PSG walked into these moments trembling. This time, they walked in commanding. Their opponent, Inter Milan, a club forged in grit, proud of its heritage, confident in its structure. But that night, PSG tore the structure apart. From the first whistle, it was total control. The press, suffocating. The movement, rehearsed perfection. Every pass, every sprint, every recovery carried one message. We are not the same team anymore. This wasn't survival, it was supremacy, a masterclass in control, intensity, and precision. What unfolded wasn't a match, it was a demolition. A decade of mockery washed away in 90 minutes of footballing authority. PSG didn't just win, they erased every doubt that ever shadowed their name. Every collapse, every headline, every joke, avenged in one breathtaking performance. By the final whistle, the scoreboard didn't matter, the statement did. Luis Enrique's PSG had arrived, not the fragile project of old, but a machine forged in pain, rebuilt with purpose, reborn through unity. PSG didn't just win the Champions League, they owned it, they defined it. For the first time in their history, PSG weren't chasing greatness, they were greatness. When the lights dimmed at the Allianz that night, the echoes remained. The cheers, the tears, the disbelief. PSG, champions of Europe. A sentence that once felt like fantasy, finally became truth. For years, they were a symbol of failure, of money without meaning. Now they were proof that even the most criticized project can be reborn through belief. Luis Enrique didn't just bring a trophy to PSG, he brought identity. He built a team that fought for something greater than headlines, a team that played for the badge, the fans, the city. PSG finally became what they were always meant to be, a club worthy of its ambition, and a champion worthy of its scars. And as the new dawn broke over the city of light, the world looked at PSG not with laughter, but with respect. If you enjoyed this deep dive into PSG's story, check out the other documentaries on my channel. We've covered the rise and fall of football's biggest clubs and players. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, consider becoming a member. Every bit of support helps keep these stories alive.